Oh, it's a little dark. I'm just going to fix the brightness. I have to shut this thing off. Huh. It doesn't look that bad. Okay, so I'm going to talk about all the four Deadpool movies. Now, there are 3 versions of Deadpool 1, and 3 versions of Deadpool 2, the Super Duper cut, and Once Upon Deadpool, which is literally a pairing. It has some edited scenes. It works some of the scenes that were in Deadpool, the Super cut. So, but it interrupts those good things that's promised. So right now, and also there's one version of just Deadpool 1. Now, a lot of people complain. I guess some people complain that Deadpool 2 is not as good as Deadpool 1. But I think that's more of a biased opinion because they really don't think of what's best for the character. They just think what they want to see from the character instead of what the character needs to do is to express himself. So, and that's Deadpool. So, our main protagonist in both films is Deadpool. And focuses heavily on Deadpool. Both of them, 1, 2, and the extended versions of the sequel called the Deadpool Super Duper cut. And so it does Deadpool Once Upon Deadpool, the PG-13 version of Deadpool 2, because it's my guess that this takes place in a multiverse Once Upon Deadpool, or someplace. I think my first thought I'm just going to say is it takes place in a multiverse, somewhere in a multiverse, or it takes place in the events after Deadpool 2. My guess it takes place after Deadpool 2, where the main part of that film is that he kidnaps Fred Savage from the main character of Wonder Years, who's a grown-ass man, Fred Savage, and become kind of a prune with age, as in tight and boring and lacking any fun in his life. While Deadpool's just the opposite. Basically, he's what Disney's version of Marvel, owned by Marvel. Disney owned by Marvel. He's basically kind of like what the MCU represents. Be bland, be boring, be uptight, be PG-13, be a prune. Well, Deadpool is also to be creative, wild, and free. Be yourself. Be true to yourself. And literally have fun while doing it. And he reads the story about Deadpool 2. And I feel like the reason why I said before, I think that's the film's intention to poke fun at the MCU. And poke fun at the fan base because Fred Savage actually says that the Marvel's doesn't make as good a movie as Fox, especially when it comes to Deadpool. Which those fan bases are wrong. The only thing that Fox doesn't do as good a job is making bad, tasteless garbage like Fox. As in Marvel does a better job at that than Fox does, as in a worse job. So the plot of Deadpool I'm just going to not tell you. I'm going to basically tell you the arc that Deadpool is going through in the extended cut of Deadpool 2 and the theatrical cut, because he goes through the same arc of Deadpool 1 and 2. I mean, he goes through the same. He goes through a different arc in Deadpool 1, and it continues. That arc continues into Deadpool 2. So, Deadpool 2 is literally the extension of his arc for Deadpool 1. He is continuing the same arc. He hasn't finished that arc, but he will finish it in Deadpool 3 when it comes out. Sort of like Man of Steel has started an arc with Superman and has the plan to tell that story in a 5-film storyline. That was started with Man of Steel and continue with Batman v Superman, and was supposed to continue with Zack Snyder's version of Justice League that's going to be aired on HBO Max. And if it's successful enough, he will finish the story with Justice League 1 and 3. I mean, Justice League 2 and 3. Which will, Justice League 3, if Zack Snyder is getting free control on all Justice League movies, he will get to finish the Superman arc, and he will take the final step into becoming the man we know and love from the comics. So yeah, they're not doing something different with Superman. They're just like, they're doing what Tom Welling did with Superman. Having an unsure Clark Kent and as a broken person in a world he doesn't understand and doesn't know how to operate as a hero, and doesn't know if he wants to or if he should, or doesn't know anything. He's still figuring that out, how to act out. Tom Welling, Superman, and Henry Cavill's doing the same thing as Henry Cavill's doing in a cinematic form. Well, Tom Welling did it on a small silver screen form. So, you really gotta look at the Man of Steel, Henry Cavill's run on Superman like that. You gotta go look at it from that point of perspective, because he doesn't every time he in Man of Steel, he figured out what he wants to do with his life. He knows what he wants to do. But continues, and also in, Batman v Superman, where he did know what he do with his life, but now he's seeing more unsure of himself because the whole news is shitty on him, and some are praising him, some are treating him like a god, and he doesn't like any of that. He just wants to be treated like a guy. He just wants to be accepted for who he is. Just a dude trying to do the right thing. And so many people are looking at it the wrong way. Some people are looking at it the right way, but the people's opinion on him is divisive, nonetheless. So he's unsure on himself if he's doing the right thing. That's why he goes to court, and Lex Luthor blows the courthouse up, and Smith the one survive. And it's revealed in the Snyder alternate cut of that movie, Snyder's unrated cut of that film, that the reason why he couldn't see is because the bomb was shielded with lead, something that Superman can't see. So it would have, I feel like they only should have left that scene in there, because that is a key part of the story. So yeah, and he suddenly, and at the third act, he realized he has an epiphany of that he is at home. His home didn't die with his people. His home, it lives on at Earth. It lives with the people he loves at Earth, and Lois is what makes him feel at the most home, the most loved. therefore he's willing to sacrifice his life for people he loves, but for everyone on Earth. And this is what gets the people across Metropolis and pretty much across the world no longer divisive about among Superman, but feel like they could have trusted him, and they feel hopeful. They feel like they now can. They feel like they could have. They feel like they trust him, and because of that serious decision he made into saving everyone and inspiring hope and good in people again. Even someone like Batman, who gave up on humanity, and so did Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. But then, well, Wonder Woman 1984 came out. It's coming out, so which kind of comes out after Justice League. So I'm guessing they decided to say, screw complex storytelling. It'll be fine. So Wonder Woman was technically very inconsistent because she said because the whole point of when you really look at it, she says she doesn't Justice League and all that, she shot herself out of people, and her character said in Justice League, the Whedon's version, that she shot herself out from everyone. And Wonder Woman movie and the Batman v Superman movie, not the Batman movie, the Batman v Superman movie, Dawn of Justice, both of those, it's like acknowledge very briefly that she shut herself out and she did want to save the world, but something happened. Well, I don't know who that is. And now Pat Jenkinson saying, "Oh, that never happened to her," when cast continuity clearly says otherwise. So this means that Wonder Woman 1984 is a reboot sequel. What do we mean by that? Well, basically what Hellboy 2 was, and what Speed 2 was, and what Hollow Man 2 was. Has nothing to do with the sequel, but it's either going to be a watered down version of its predecessor, or it's going to be a tremendous improvement of its predecessor, like Hellboy 2. This usually happens the opposite. And that being the opposite being is a watered down predecessor of the previous one. Sort of like sort of like, you know how the graphics, the special effects and the production design when Whedon took over and Whedon's Justice League, you notice how, and then you saw Zack Snyder's Justice League trailer. Not saying I've seen it yet, because I'm not saying it's good. But you notice how the one production design looks like they put their best into it for a mini-series, and one looks like green screen effects mixed with really unpolished CGI effects, but great color grading and nice costume designs and quality acting and funny dialogue. That's basically Whedon version of Justice League versus Zack Snyder. You see, Zack Snyder's Justice is the you can look at it as the first one, while Whedon's Justice League you can look at as the watered down version sequel like Speed 2 and Hollow Man 2. Or you could go the other route. You cannot. The other route is you can actually make it improvement over your predecessor, but have nothing to do with the predecessor because it doesn't have any of the main character that the main character was the main focus on in the first one, and that wasn't Hellboy in the first one. He was the main focus. It was just this new guy who was supposed to witness Hellboy becoming a man, and he's not mentioned at all in the sequel. This has been done many times. Another good example is Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Yes, wonder how I know that's a reboot sequel? Well, it's more of a, when you can tell when Freddy's fingers grow, well, the claws instead of him having it attached to a glove, that's basically kind of hinting at this is a reboot sequel. And I guess that didn't. I guess that was poorly received, probably mostly because of the stupid design to give Freddy fingernail claws instead of an actual goglet, which was much more believable and creative and realistic, and yet in scarier design. They changed that one design of his claw and removed the glove and just had the claws attached to his fingernails. Like, it just looks stupid. I thought it didn't look. It looked kind of stupid. So I guess they went. So apparently they went with the old design that the first Nightmare on Elm Street had, was the gauntlet, and classic Freddy was back, and it was basically another reboot sequel to return to. It was a reboot sequel of the reboot sequel, and none of them are bad. The Nightmare on Elm Street, but when you have two reboot sequels and the second one sticks, that's not usually heard of. Like ever. That's the only one I think I have ever heard of that. On top of my head. Oh, but there is one reboot sequel. Star Wars: The Force Awakens is a reboot sequel. Why? Because instead of, get this, instead of using Anakin's recent design that ended in the original trilogy, they decided to go with his old design. Oh, isn't that stupid? And you remember that lightsaber? He is that blue lightsaber. That blue lightsaber that he lost after getting his hand cut off. Well, he still gets his hand cut off and still has a robot arm, but he has the blue lightsaber back. Yeah, remember that green lightsaber that he traded? He got it instead. He got it because he lost the blue one. Well, the same exact blue lightsaber Rey is able to find with the Force, because that's how the Force works. Find random shit that supposedly got lost in the never abyss of space. Makes sense to me. Seriously, all these films I mentioned, I enjoy all these films that this pokes fun of, the reboot sequels, but they're not, they're not as good as in some ways not as good one way or the other for a certain reason, because you have to stop and you realize they either cut out a character or they give you a plot hole, unintentionally plot hole, that's never explained how that happened. Because the original previous predecessors had this happen, now you have this pop out of nowhere. But we assume that was destroyed. Well, I'm sure. Well, maybe my best guess. Well, technically, the Lacey thing got down into the abyss of space. It just went down and dropped down to the bottom of the several-story Death Star bottom, and so I don't know. Maybe some sort of dumpster diver picked it up. That's my best. That's my best guess. I don't know why, but anyway. Okay, so what I like about Deadpool 2 is that it's not a reboot sequel. It's just a sequel. And another reboot sequel you can say is Batman Forever and Batman Robin. And both of those are reboot sequels, because how does Batman Robin tie into Batman Forever? Even though there's four Batman movies, that two were Michael Keaton, and one was Val Kilmer, and one was George Clooney, and they take place in Silicon Valley. Who cares? This isn't. What's the point of storytelling? Fuck. Oh. And it's still going today, these reboot sequels, and I think Wonder Woman there's not going to be a sequel, straight-up sequel, it's going to be a reboot sequel. Well, yeah, whether it might improve on the past one that wasn't a good movie, or it might be the opposite, as it may be worse. It's going to be a reboot sequel, which is basically the whole, it's the first one that I sat through that I didn't like was for nothing. Oh, now I know how Hellboy fans, I think I can only imagine how Hellboy fans who saw the first one and who enjoyed it, that are fans of just the movies but not the comics, and then they enjoy the sequel more, but they gotta ask this question: what was the point of watching the first one if I could just seen the sequel? And if it's not connected, has any recurring characters played by the same actors or different actors, that wouldn't be a problem, unless in the first one they were the main focus. And two, Hellboy's the main focus, and the first one is this new guy that's the main focus. He doesn't return at all in the sequel. Not even mentioned. Not even main dropped. We don't know what happened to him. It's just that, wow. Talk about lazy, right? And the director, both they got the same director and writers I hear for help that did help the first Hellboy movie, and they couldn't think of a better way to explain this. They couldn't, or any explanation at all would be nice. But no, let's just not pretend that never happened. So, Deadpool 1 tells a story about a man, and that man is Wade Wilson, dying of cancer, and ready to call it quits, and just die, and he's lost all hope, a lot of options, and he doesn't see, and he wants to leave his girl which is his wife now, because Zion doesn't want her to see it, so she doesn't want him to leave, and very sad. So he decides to take this man off on his offer, this mysterious, creepy guy on his offer, to make him a superhero and fix his cancer. Turns out and later it's revealed, after all that torture that he suffered, turns out they're not making him into a super, they're making him into a super weapon. And going to trial, and after they activate his genes, then they wipe his memory, and make him into a soldier to kill innocent lives. And Wade says, says, what the fuck is wrong with you people? So, last thing you do is put him in this baker oven machine, and he accesses the gene, but it gives him makes him look like Freddy Krueger Jr. Less ugly version of Freddy Krueger. though, is he like? Does he look like? I know I think he looks a little more ugly than the. He looks. My problem with this film is that the script makes him sound like he's really ugly to see, but he looks too good looking compared to what they're describing. So anyway, Wade breaks free, and years later he hunts down Francis. Francis escapes because the two X-Men members interfere. And this all explained through flashbacks while Wade's doing the narrating as Deadpool. And, yeah. So, he cuts off his hand to escape from the cuffs and takes a ride home with the dumpsters. With the trash. He takes a dumpster, he hops aboard a dumpster, a garbage truck, and takes that ride home. To this blind lady that's sort of like a mother figure, but in like, sort of like this, sort of like, and he, sort of like this, actually this, sort of like this mother figure that, Wade's living with, but in the comics, she's also his